Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast as we're now going to be diving into the Monday Night Football game from last night between the Jets and the Bills. We are going to be first looking at the perspective here from the Jets, considering they are, of course, the ones in the headlines this morning based off of the Davante Adams deal. But as we were talking about, this is a situation for the Jets where I don't think it comes down to having just one extra wide receiver. This was a pretty weird game on both sides, considering, it really did turn into a ref show at the end of that game. There were 22 penalties called total, 204 penalty yards, and I think that it really did hurt the Jets on a number of these instances, but again, you have the penalties involved, the wind is kicking, and you have Zuerlein and Bass both missing kicks. It was a very tough situation for a number of different reasons, which is why I do have a hard time sort of fully pinning this game on Aaron Rodgers, which some people are doing. It is a fact that Rodgers has had the ball now in 3 straight games in the fourth quarter with the chance to even the game up or go ahead. And they are 0 for 3 on scoring points on these drives dating back to the Broncos game in these 3 straight losses. So it's kind of easy to start the narrative there. I do think that there's a lot more to that as well when you look at the fact that, they were in field goal positioning on a number of opportunities down the stretch of this game. You also have a missed kick in that Broncos game as well. So, not to be an Aaron Rodgers apologist by any means, but I thought that he looked pretty good in this game, all things considered. 23 of 35, 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did throw that interception that ended up being the game sealer for them, which is a tough look, absolutely. And, maybe even a little bit of a tougher look is Rodgers coming out and speaking out to the media that Mike Williams ran the wrong route in that opportunity. I have no problem with holding your teammates accountable. I don't love doing it in the public setting, the way that Rodgers went about it. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Leadership comes in a number of different forms, and it's not like Mike Williams has proven himself at this point to be, somebody that is a prominent piece of this Jets offense. I at least got a notification earlier this morning from Bleacher Report that Mike Williams could be moved in the aftermath of this Davante Adams trade. So we'll see how things play out there. But, I thought that overall, the Jets did a pretty good job moving the ball. You get 113 yards from Breece Hall through the ground. He additionally has 56 yards through the air. And not that I want to diminish Breece Hall in terms of he is still very talented. He just kind of leaves me wanting more from him as well, though, if that's fair to say. I thought that the 2 biggest plays for him in terms of there was the halfback toss for him that opened him up for that 42-yard gain. There was a screen play for him as well that broke for 24 yards. And on both of those, I really thought it was the blocking up front. And that is where I understand this offensive line hasn't been great up to this point in the season. But I think that there are moments here, and it helps as well. You have a lot of veterans on that offensive line. Morgan Moses playing his first game back from injury. You had so many moving pieces, 3 new starters on that O-line coming into the year, that I think it's possible to build up some more chemistry and for them to look better down the stretch of the year. When I was looking this morning as well, Morgan Moses was in that upper echelon in terms of offensive tackles based off of pass block win rate. He is tied for 10th in terms of success rate at 93%. So, a little bit of something to maybe hope for. And that is a good Bills defense that they faced off against last night. And I think that, we saw the Bills be able to get gashed in that Ravens game, but really outside of that, they've been performing far above the expectations all year long. And, I understand Rodgers took some hits, ended up getting sacked 3 times, which is something you would absolutely love to avoid as much as possible. AJ Epinesa with 2 of those for the Bills. But, you have some good edge rushers as well on the other team. And I thought that they held their own as much as they really could have. I think ultimately my biggest concern about the Jets in this game, and their defense did play well for the most part, limited the Bills to just 3 points in the second half, is I'm still not sold on them in terms of being a good run-stopping defense, where Ray Davis last night goes for 97 yards. This is as James Cook is scratched just about an hour or so before the game kicks off then, and more times than not, we have seen the Jets struggle against the run. Now, the advanced statistics in terms of run block win rate, they are, in a pretty good position, all things considered. But I think you look at the teams that they were able to more so shut down the run against. It was against the Vikings without their starting running back in Aaron Jones. We saw the Broncos and just an absolute slugfest there. Broncos aren't necessarily a team known for their run. The Patriots as well, especially at that point with Jacoby Brissett. I think I just need to see a little bit more from them. This should be a good test this upcoming weekend against the Steelers, where the Steelers aren't necessarily elite on the ground, but Najee Harris is coming off of his best game of the season, so that'll definitely be something at least of note to take into consideration with this game. But for the Jets as a whole, in terms of what does this loss mean for them, I think that they're very much still alive in the season. Now, I do think that the better team won last night in the Bills. The Jets may have outplayed the Bills to some degree in the second half, but roster for roster, I am still favoring the Bills over the Jets. But that doesn't mean that this season is over for the Jets. They're 2-4, which is absolutely not where you would hope that they were coming into the season. But something that I continue to sort of highlight in these discussions is the fact that there really aren't super intimidating teams holding those wild card spots at this point. I believe the top three right now are the Steelers, the Chargers, and then either the Colts or the Broncos. I don't have the exact picture pulled off in front of me at this point. None of those teams the Jets should be scared of. The biggest thing is the Jets just being able to overcome themselves. And I think that they showed signs of growth last night, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, the way that they were able to move up and down the field. They probably should have won this game if it weren't for some kicking woes in this. So, understandably, a very frustrating loss for the Jets, but I don't think by any means that the season is over here. They're 2-4. They just reloaded with one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and they have a chance here with some softer opponents in these next few weeks that they could really begin to ramp up. Now, I mentioned already, Sunday Night Football against the Steelers this upcoming week should be a game packed with storylines. We have some news on the Steelers front with a quarterback change there that sort of plays into the entertainment value of what that game should bring. But I think it's a very winnable game. Then they're facing the Patriots as well in Week 8. That's a very winnable game. A little bit of a litmus test for sure against the Texans. That game at home, where I'm not calling that game winnable by any means. Thursday night game there should be a fun one, I would say that, but then it's the Cardinals and the Colts, two okay teams as well. So I think 4 of the next 5 games are winnable for the Jets, and then they have a bye week going into Seahawks, Dolphins, Jaguars, and Rams. So I do think that the Jets ultimately make the playoffs this season as a wild card team, maybe with the chance to be a little bit higher, but I think that last night, as much as it is a frustrating loss, I think they're headed in the right direction from here on out. Now, it's going to be a lot of the part contingent on the idea of, will that offensive line be able to get it together? What will Davante Adams have the impact that we think it will moving forward? And then, can that defense really fully solidify themselves as a great group? Now, the fact that you have Ulbrich, he is now, moved on from play calling duties with that defense, I believe, and he's, taking on the interim head coach role. I mean, he voiced frustrations about how the defense played following that game, and I think it's just about continuing to sort of build on any sort of moral victory they have, which I feel like Jets fans should be optimistic about their chances moving forward here. Now we'll see about some of the injuries. Suffered a couple last night in the secondary. It was their starting safety, and it was DJ Reed as well. Both of them ended up going down in the game. So, we will have to see whether or not it's Chuck Clark was the starting safety that they lost as well. So, we'll see what the severity is there. I do think that this defense can sort of bounce back. I think it's in them. I personally would have liked to see more from them up to this point in the year. And I think that their offense is going to be able to take off from here as well. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. We're going to now be pivoting and looking at the other side of this Monday night matchup and the Buffalo Bills, who were also in pretty desperate need of a win, coming off of two pretty brutal losses, and they are able to sort of, let everybody know that not full panic needs to ensue, that they are still leading that division. And now, this morning, they make a deal as well along with the Jets to sort of improve their wide receiver core. So we're going to be diving into takeaways from them from last night and where they stand moving forward here now with Amari Cooper on their roster. But before we do so, we are going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.